Hi, my name is Robin, and today this video is about my reflection on the teaching video that I just saw and the lesson plan that went with it, and how the teacher interacted with the standards and the students, and if there was anything that I would change, what would it be? Okay, so I'm going to just share my screen right now. So some of the questions that says here today are, how well were the standards or the lesson objectives conveyed to the students? So for me, I personally feel that the teacher could use more visual cues. As a teacher and as a learner myself, I prefer to have something that I can actually check off as I'm going along, like a little checklist. Whether I write it down, whether the teacher has it written down, that is something that for me I would really enjoy to see, is just really having them visuals of the lesson objectives up on the whiteboard or up being checked off as I go along. Just so then as a student I can have some physicality to that. The standards themselves, I feel like, were conveyed very well. However, I do think they were a little bit wordy and not as simple as they could have been. Because I do teach English as a second language, this is something that I would definitely simplify a lot more. So how the standards were conveyed would be in a lot more simpler language. For example, she was talking about what's the difference between inferencing and assuming, and I feel like she had a long-winded answer for that, whereas as a teacher I would have already prepared something beforehand, a really short example and a really short answer to the two different, the comparisons and how to change it up. Did the lesson adequately prepare the students to meet their lesson objectives? I do think, for me personally, I think that this lesson was very fast-paced, and if you weren't listening or preparing for the whole class, that maybe some of the students might not have caught on. I know within the lesson plan that there were adaptations made for learners that struggle. However, when seeing the classroom and seeing the teacher actually teach, there seemed to be just a lot of sitting down. Even though there were a few activities, they were still sitting down. They weren't moving around much. They weren't able to change it up into different groups. And I think as someone that might be struggling, this would be a difficult class to take. So that is something that, for me personally, I would make it more. So then there was more adaptations for students that might need different types of help. Will meeting the lesson objectives help the students master the standard? I do definitely think that the lesson objectives do help master the standard itself. However, I think that it's not very clearly put in the class. So it's not, number one, today we're going to do this, number two is this, number three is this. It's, for me, it's that physical being able to sit on the whiteboard. I really think that really helps a lot of students. How would I improve or adapt this lesson to meet the needs of my students? I would improve or adapt this lesson to meet my students by, basically, I would change around the activities. I know that she's trying to teach all of the bulky stuff at the start and then doing all the activities at the end. However, I think it would be better to mix them up a bit. The start of the class is really dry for me. And I think if all she did was change things up, I think the objectives would get there quicker for the kids. Here are some examples of like objectives, not for her class, but these are objectives that I currently would use in my class. These are things that I would stick either with magnets on the whiteboard, so I'm prepared before class. I like to stick them up with magnets and have them laminated, so the kids, they can take them down, they can read them either at the break time or they can read them as they go along. I like to have them as well, so when children are doing group work together, that they can I can hand them an objective and say, oh, you guys focus on this objective right now. Another thing that I would do too is have like these little like the sequence of events. So for example, I would start the class with the vocabulary, grammar sentence patterns, the reading, and the exit tickets. These are color coded to my objectives. So if the kids ask me, how do I know I completed objective number 1? I would say, okay, cool words is phonics and vocabulary. So they can match them. They can physically match them. Objective number 2 is a story adventure, listening for reading comprehension, and how to identify different grammar and sentence patterns. Would match it together. I would get the children to make examples as well as they're matching, so they can see these words that will be in the rubric that I made for them. They can identify them words, and that they can mentally and physically find it easy connections to tick things off. For example, the reading section is number 3, is talking and writing, learning how to make good sentences. It looks like I've swapped up the colors here. And the exit ticket is a complete different color because it's a whole rounded experience, what they've learned, what they can take away. For me as teacher, this is where I would improve. It would be more on the physical and the visual cues within the classroom. I would improve on putting the activities in a different order, not having the children just listen for long periods of time. And that's my answer to this video. Thank you so much for listening to my video, and have a great day.